To make a lanyard, you're going to first take this pattern and trace it onto the ugly side of the material. When you place it onto the material, you may go ahead and cut outside the lines. Notice here, if you'd like to make it for an adult, you can just make it the full length of your fabric or add a couple of inches to make it a little longer. So you've now traced on the ugly side and you've cut on the lines. Now you're going to do a series of ironing techniques. So the first one is you're simply going to take it ugly side to ugly side, which is different than before. Ugly side to ugly side, and you're simply going to iron it in half. Once you have ironed it for your first iron where it's ugly side to ugly side, step 4 says to make it open up the fold, and you're going to now fold in the raw edges. And you can decide if you bring it all the way to the center, you're going to have a pretty skinny lanyard, or you may fold just a little bit and have a lanyard about an inch thick. You decide. You're going to iron all along one side after you've decided on a width that you're going to fold it toward, and then do the same on the other side. So your ironing for second step is going to look like this. Okay, once you have folded your iron in toward the center crease, then now you're just going to simply fold it back to that original fold. You're going to match up the folds and then simply begin sewing across the open side all the way down. So I'm going to go ahead and start that now. It's really important that as you sew, you make sure that your folds are even on this end. Otherwise, your lanyard will start to look really bumpy and crooked. As I place the lanyard down, I'm going to match it up against the cut of the presser foot and use that as a guide. If you don't use it as a guide, your stitch will go all over the place. Make sure you choose a thread that is somewhat camouflaged, because this will be a very obvious stitch and you don't want it seen. So go ahead and match up your folds. Make sure it goes through the cut of the presser foot, or that you have somewhere to use as like a gauge, and begin stitching. So as I sew, I'm just making sure that the edge of this is lined up. You can stop, readjust it or refold it, and then continue all the way to the end. Okay, now that we've stitched all the way around, it's important to follow number 7. Step 7 says to lay your fabric down like a shirt collar. So it kind of comes around like a shirt collar, and make sure your stitches are to the outside on both sides. So it's not laid like this. This would be considered the inside and outside. They need to be both to the outside, and then it will lay right on the person. Step 8 says to lay the left end directly on top of the right end, but leave this end a little longer. You're going to take the ring and place it on the long end, and you simply just need to fold in the raw edge, because we never want it seen, and lay it up so that way they lay on top of each other. And you're going to simply do a back stitch back and forth like 4 or 5 times, and then you're finished. A little helpful hint would be to start in the middle. Because it's so thick, sometimes it's hard to move forward. So I like to start in the middle. I put my needle down. It's pretty thick material. I'm going to go to the end and then go all the way back. So I'm going to go all the way to the one end, reverse stitch, forward stitch, and you can kind of help push it along, back stitch, and maybe one more forward. Then lift your presser foot, lift your needle. You're of course going to cut your thread short, but you can see that it is pretty important to find thread that matches your lanyard so it's not weird looking, but otherwise then you're finished.